Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you for attending this webinar in which we will talk regarding the new plastic regulation and the needs and opportunities that there is for the plastic sector. This is the agenda for today's meeting. Apparently, the isn't working. Okay, now, so this is the agenda for today's meeting. First, we will talk regarding the plastic regulation in Europe. Then we will move to the certification according to the standard 15343. Then we will talk regarding safety and recyclability evaluation. We will end up with the polymeric materials testing. We will save 10 minutes at the end of the webinar for a Q&A section. So if you have any question during the meeting, you can put the question on the chat, and we will have a look at it at the end of the webinar. Okay, so in the next slide, we will like to show you the Applus group. Apparently, it's not working to pass the slides. Okay, well, yeah. So these are the speakers for today's webinar. The first part will be handled by Ana Maria Masip, which is a product certification technical director here at Applus Barcelona. Then the second part will be handled by Jose Guardiola, who is an environmental product certification specialist. Then the safety and recyclability evaluation will be handled by my colleague Marilis Blanchi, who is a technical expert in materials. And I, Alejandro Belmez, will be handling the part of polymeric material testing. Okay, so in the next slide, first, we would like to introduce you the Applus group for those that do not know us. Applus is a world leading, a world leader in inspection and testing and certification. We have 25,000 employees around the world in 66 countries. It's divided in 4 divisions that you can see here. So Energy and Industry Division, Automotive Division, IDIADA Division, and the one that we are part of, which are Laboratories Division. In the next slide, you will see that the work that we do in the laboratories division, we offer solutions for products. Sorry, apparently there is some issue with the Teams meeting. Okay, now. So we offer testing solution as well as certification solution for the products on for our clients. In the next slide, there is a list of the testing and the capabilities that we can do. We perform materials and structures testing as well as non-destructive testing, also testing for electrical and electronics. We are a world leader on cybersecurity and also on fire and building products testing. We also offer product and system certification as well as global market access, and also we offer digital solutions and metrology services to our customers. So now I will give the stage to my colleague Anna that will talk regarding the plastic regulation in Europe.
Thank you. I speak about plastic regulation, plastic principles, implications, and plastic tax. Plastic is widely used due to its waterproof, resistant, and moldable properties, with production continuing to increase. However, poor waste management creates serious environmental and health problems. The European Commission prioritizes plastics in its Circular Economy Action Plan because less than 25% is recycled and nearly 50% goes to landfills. In 2019, the European Green Deal was established as the European Growth Strategy. It consists of a package of policy initiatives that set the European Union on a path towards an ecological transition, with the aim of achieving climate neutrality by 2050. We will focus on the circular economy, a new economic model in which products are reused, repaired, and recycled to reduce waste and preserve resources. The current waste management framework promotes circular economy principles, focusing on the recovery and reintegration of products into the market. Since 2018, the European Union has used multiple directives that member states have transposed into national legislation, like Spanish Law 7/2022, and key European regulation includes eco-design, it's 2024/1781, packaging and packaging waste regulation, 2025/40, and food contact materials, 2025/351. The European Union framework continues evolving with new regulations on construction products, batteries, and more, such as the implementation of the digital product passport for products sold in the European Union. Next slide. Okay. A company that markets its plastic packaging in Spain will be affected by the Law 7/2022, which affects all types of waste, including plastic products. The law prioritizes the prevention and reduction of waste. It promotes the reuse and recycling of materials under the principle of extended producer responsibility. Producers are responsible for the management of the waste they generate. Sorry, doesn't work. Now, the law establishes the plastic tax on non-reusable plastic packaging. The aim is to discourage the use of single-use plastics. A decrease of 30% is expected in 2025, this year, and 50% in 2030 in plastic packaging production. This environmental tax applies to manufacturers, importers, and intra-community purchasers of plastic packaging used inside Spanish territory, and includes empty containers, semi-finished products, and closure or presentation containers. The rate is 0.45 euros per kilo for non-recycled plastic. And to demonstrate that the products contains recycled plastic, the amount must be certified. Medical containers and plastic rolls for silage are exempt. Companies can avoid or reduce the plastic tax by having the amount of recycled plastic in their products certified by an accredited entity under the standard 15343, ensuring the percentage of recycled material incorporated into the products and their traceability. Alternatively, they can demonstrate that the product is reusable, which is valid through third-party certification used standard under the standard 13429. Okay. The European Regulation 2025/40 come into force in February of this year, but applies from August 2026. It covers all packaging materials, including plastic, except liquid wood, fabric, ceramics, rubber, cork, porcelain, and wax. The regulation applies to all sectors where packaging is used, regardless of the industry, including imported and hazardous packaging. From February 2029, will affect food and beverage containers, expanded polyester cups, and protective packaging materials. Sorry. By packaging, we mean any product made from any type of material used to contain, protect, handle, distribute, and present goods, for raw material to finished products, and any stage of the chain. Related accessories and services packaging are also included, such as tea bags, coffee, and coffee capsules. The regulation requires recyclable packaging that's easy to recycle, influencing materials, choice, and design. Manufacturers must implement deposit, return, and refund systems and use recycled materials. Progressive targets include 30% recycled content in single-use plastic bottles by 2030 and 60% by 2040. Additional requirements include weight volume reduction or not misleading labels are included. Manufacturers must comply with environmental requirements, demonstrate actions to reduce their environmental impact, and manage the waste they generate, taking on extended producer responsibility. Each country will establish a register to monitor compliance. Another regulation that has come into force is the Eco-Design Regulation, which aims to improve environmental sustainability, reduce the carbon footprint, and facilitate the free movement of products, including plastics. It promotes durability, reparability, energy efficiency, recyclability, and waste reduction, and introduces the digital product passport. It prohibits the destruction of unsold products, such as clothing and footwear. Manufacturers, importers, distributors, and traders must ensure that their products comply with the requirements. And member states will carry out market controls and apply proportionate sanctions in case of non-compliance. The new Eco-Design Regulation introduced the digital product passport, a QR code containing information about a product's sustainability during its life cycle. This includes details such as its carbon footprint, the substances, recycled content, and instructions for use, repair, and recycling. This helps consumers make informed purchasing decisions. Implementation starts in 2027 with batteries and affect imported products and global supply chains. And as you can see, the regulation reflects the European Union's commitment to reduce plastic, promote recycling, and protect the environment. So it is important to adapt to improve the sustainability of our products and avoid penalties. And now I will hand over to my colleague, Jose Guardiola.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Anna, for your part. Now we will be moving on to comment the UNE-EN 15343 certification, and we'll be commenting the generic requirements of the standard and associated to them, how Applus, in this case our team, assesses the requirements in order for the companies to reduce the tax from the plastics inputs. Okay, so moving on to the second part of this webinar, I will be commenting I will be commenting the UNE-EN 15343, which is a standard that specifies the procedures and requirements necessary to assess the percentage of recycled content in products and the traceability with regards of the recycling process. Okay. This standard was published in 2007, and the key points that are requirements in order to accomplish a certificate are mainly the stage 4 with regards to the methodology and procedure in order to check the control of the incoming materials, the recycling production process, the characterization of the plastics that are being produced, and obviously the traceability, and also the point 6 with regards of the recycled content and the formula that is being used to calculate this recycled content in the products and how it is later on declared to the buyers. Okay, so first of all, we will be commenting the stage 4 with the methodology and procedures. And this methodology, when the page wanted to, if the page wants to, exactly, yes, sorry. First of all, this is the control of incoming material, okay? Take into account that depending on your activity, it will be different, because if we are assessing a recycler, the control of incoming material will be based on the wastes, plastic waste that you are purchasing, okay? So this will be assessed in detail with the property design of collection and the sorting scheme, okay? We have here the standard associated to that control, material control, which is the EN 15347.1, okay? And if you are not a recycler and you are a packer, then we will be looking for the information of your purchasers, of your suppliers, sorry. So we will be assessing the information from the recycled input that you are purchasing. With regards to the point 4.2 of the control of recycling production process, obviously we will be assessing the recording of the production within the period of the evaluation. If we are doing an initial inspection, it will be 3 months, and in the follow-up inspection, it will be a full year of information, okay? All the manufactured batches should be identified and traceable throughout all your manufacturing process. With regards to the characteristics of the recycled plastics, it will be mainly for the recyclers. And in this case, depending on the plastic typology that you work with, you will have associated some testing requirements that are applicable in the standard listed. And we will be assessing that all the, not all the batches, but you have a quality control production in which you are doing this kind of testing. Okay. Then the point 4.2, which is related to traceability, will be to assess the evidences of data from each one of the previous phases of the manufacturing process and the identification and recording of the applicable documentation. Okay. Moving on to the second part, we will be evaluating the quality of the manufacturing process, in which if your company has already a certified ISO 9001, it will be easier from our part and for your part, because you will only need to adequate some kind of procedures. But if not, we will be looking for the factory production control, okay? And in which we will assess all the adequate the consistency of the quality of the recycling or the packer or the production of the packing. Okay. Obviously, all the equipment that is included in the production should be calibrated in order with a methodology benchmark. Okay. The equipment involved in the manufacturing processes of the products should be also accredited under ISO EEC 17025. Here in the right, you can see a table which is also included in the standard. This information should be needed if your supplier doesn't has already a certified product with EN 15343. Okay, so each batch that you are purchasing from a certified supplier, you will be not needing this information. But if your supplier does not has a EN 15343, you will be needing to have all this information from each batch of recycled input that you are purchasing. Okay, that's the main idea. Then moving to the point sheet with the recycled content. Here we can see the generic formula to calculate the recycled content, which is the mass of recycled materials input divided by the total mass of the product. In this regard, it is a quite simple formula, but depending on your manufacturing processes, it could be more complicated. And how many suppliers do you have with recycled content or rigid plastic content? And if you are mixing all in silos, then it will be more complicated, of course. The recycled plastics could be from pre-consumer or post-consumer origins, and then we will be doing a three different recycled content assessment from the three different products in the inspection. Okay, as at the very minimum. Okay, and depending if you have more products, then maybe should be more evaluations. And then we will be also looking for the mass balance of your production, in which, again, if it is an initial, it will be most likely to be 3 months of information, and we will be assessing the information from the suppliers of the recycled content, the stock at the beginning of the production, the stock at the end of the production, and the information with regards of the recycled content of the final products. We have three different particular certification schemes in which we can do. For instance, the PCS 135 is related to the recycled content in products, and the PCS 136 is related to the recycling process. Okay, so depending on your activity, you should be applying to one or the other. And then we have also the 141 with regards to reusable packaging. This is the generic stages in order to get certified, which is normal one if you have already worked with an ISO 9001, but we also included the documental review in order to make it clearer for our part from the beginning, which are the products that you're willing to include, and then you should be sending some information previously to the on-site audit in order to get a clear picture from our part, okay? Then we will be performing the audit, then you should receive the audit report within 2 weeks. Then if there are non-conformities, you should be sending the correction action plan. And when everything is solved, we will be presenting your expedient to the committee and issuing your certificate. Okay, that's the generic processes. Here we have the two different PCAs, in which I have already commented the normal requirements that we assess, okay, which is related to the production control, processes involved, verification of the traceability, and recycled content, okay, and the quality systems. Obviously, depending on the classification scheme, you will have to do some characterization testing. Then we work. Sorry. Yes. No. Perfect. Yes. Then we have also the PCS 141 with regards to reusable packaging, and in which we classified the different loops of the packaging. This is applicable for plastics, but also for other typology of packaging. So if you are interested, feel free to reach out to us in order to get more information with this regard. But the relevant clauses of this service is the reuse control, the reconditioning, the traceability, and the declaration of reusable packaging. Okay, you should be look for if you have a reusable packaging, which loop you are included in, and depending on the loop, we will be issuing also a certificate once that everything is correct with your reusable packaging, and the tax will be exempt for your end. And finally, here we have a certificate draft in which you can see that you will receive a specific number, which is your number certificate, the name of your organization and the address, and the typology of products that is being assessed. And then in the annex of the certificate, we will be including information with regards of your products, such as the typology of the product, characteristics, type of plastic or fork, and recycled content. So take into consideration that this recycled content that is included in the product, that will be the one that it's exempt later on in the tax from the national Spanish government. Okay. So with that, I give the floor to my colleague Marilis in order to continue with the safety and recyclability evaluation. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Jose, to give me the word. So now we have seen why we need to consider recycled plastic and how we can proceed to certify the products that we put on the market. But there are more and more concern on the safety and the safe use of recycled products, to be released in the environment or to be used directly by anybody's during the life of the product. So just so that means that more and more we have to take into consideration the safety, the performance, and this will be a multidisciplinary approach to integrate new plastic and to integrate recycled plastics into new product or existing product, especially when we are talking about a very sensitive product like cosmetic, for example, or food contact materials. This is why that in parallel of all the regulation to incorporate recycled plastic, there are as well other regulation that are more concerning safety and safety use of the product. So Anna already talked about the first regulation 225/40, which includes the recycled plastic in packaging for all application, with a few exemptions such as like pharmaceutical or medical application, and it replaced an existing directive. So the objective of this regulation is to have like an harmonized procedures for all Europe companies and all European countries. It goes in parallel with several new regulation in food contact materials. So we do have the regulation 2022/1616, which give more guidelines about how to incorporate recycled plastic and will provide a focus on the need for control, monitoring of the process, decontamination, and traceability issues. The regulation 1935 and regulation 10/2011 are more in relation with the potential extraction of substances during the use of the product in food contact application. And there are new amendments, especially for the regulation 10/2011, that is amendments number 18 and 19 especially, that will include the need to incorporate plastic materials and what are the main concern of including plastic materials, recycled plastic materials, such as the incorporation of non-intentionally added substances or PFAS, for example. And then I will not talk about the two last one, but you have to be aware that as well there are new amendments on the REACH regulation, which focuses on chemical assessments and chemical authorization in Europe, and the CLP regulation, which focus on the requirement for labeling and the products the substances that has to be labeled there directly for the users to be informed on the potential release of chemicals out of the product. So if we make a focus on packaging, packaging, as you might remind, as in Anna presentations, it's a product, a materials. The main function is to contain or protect a specific product from the environment or from external risk of contamination. The packaging manufacturers have to put a declaration of compliance to verify the conformity with all the concerned regulation, and has to verify that the packaging and the food packaging that they use are safe for the users and for the products, not only at the level of the final stage, but they have to monitor as well every step of the supply chain. So that means they have to control what is used as a raw material supplier, the transformation of plastics as the conformation into packaging, and up to the final packaging of the product. So they have to just be verifying that there will be no risk of concern on the safety for both the environment and the users. Just a quick overview of the next milestones for plastic converters. So the PPWR has been approved early this year, and it's coming to force. And in parallel, there will be an application of the interdiction of the use of PFAS. So it's specific materials known as eternal pollutants, which we can find them in waters mainly, but as well in many other applications when there is a need of friction resistance, for example, non-attachment of a food product, or for fire extinction. So there is many applications that are using PFAS, but there is a strong interdiction that is coming into force, and especially in food packaging, there are several rules that are guiding for going to these interdictions. It's in red because there's still a lot of definition to be written by the European regulation. The methods to evaluate PFAS nowadays has not yet been clearly defined, and the levels that is an acceptable level for safety is still under discussions between the different competent authorities. We will have in 2027 new REACH amendments publications with a specific concern on PFAS, but as well on a substance of very high concern that will be applied to plastic converters and food packaging manufacturers. And if we keep going years to years, there will be new obligation to recycle and to have a recycling grade for packaging manufacturers, and design for recycling has to be finalized and accepted by 2030. So that means from now up to 2030s, we have to evaluate and to redesign the packaging to make sure that it incorporates recycled plastic and it is recyclable. So that we have 5 years, so it's a very quite short time when talking about the time for new developments, certification and qualification of the product. And then we have 2035 and 2038 to recycle at scale. That means that all manufacturers site has to be defined and include recycled product, and there will be more restriction in 2038 in the acceptable products that could be put on the market with A and B grade only that will be authorized on the market. So as you can see, there is many milestones coming in a short term with many new regulation and new amendment to take into consideration. So now if we make a specific focus on the regulation 2025-040, which concern plastic and packaging waste regulation. And I would like to specifically focus on 3 articles. So the Article 5, which gives a requirement for the substance that can be present in packaging with the concern of integrating specific substance, the Article 7 on the minimum recycled content, and the last article, Article 6, which include recyclable packaging on the product. So, as I say, I will focus on the substance that needs to be incorporated in packaging, especially for food contact industry. Majority, the packaging could be made of one single materials, which make it more easy to recycle and to use. But most of the time, it's composed of multi-layer system that have different function and different performance. So we have functional barriers, for example, that protects from oxygen or from air to risk any contamination that goes into the packaging and could contaminate the food contact materials. We can have several nature of materials such as plastic, carton. We can have like wood packaging, metallic packaging. We can have like different sources of product. So this is the first thing that we have to identify: the first raw materials that use, the processing methods that are used all along the supply chain of the product, and what are the challenge in terms of separation. So do we have to use a specific way to split and separate the two layers? Could we use a specific materials that can be easily removed before recycling process, for example? And this is such technical challenge that need to be addressed. And in every single step of the process of manufacturing, we have the risk of incorporating new substances, such as impurity, for example, coming from the process itself, for the manufacturing site, or for the misuse of the product during its life. We could have also a risk of degradation, especially talking about polymers. They are of higher risk of having a degradation during use. And finally, we can have contamination from the recycle process. So this risk of having unwanted substance into the products are specifically true for recycled plastic, because there can be potential degradation and misuse of the packaging during both the recycling process and during the consumer use of the product. So to address this risk, we can have like a risk assessment of the materials and identify what are the raw materials that are used. Sorry, just when the slide just accepts to pass. Sorry. So you can just use different sources to identify the presence of additives, solvents, risk of contamination, and unwanted product. You can ask the suppliers of the raw materials itself to give you a declaration of conformity, or to provide you safety data sheet or technical data sheet that includes the information of the polymer, the additives that are used for the process, for example, the cleaning agent that is used, what kind of materials. You can have as well information from the manufacturers of the packaging, which kind of ink they use for the final product. Did they use any additives? Did they use any adhesives as well for the label, for example? What kind of materials they use? What is the grade of materials they use? If they have any conformity on this product. And if you have no information from both raw material supplier or the manufacturers, you can complete the information by performing the research and development studies to make technical review on the chemical composition of the product, or using the literatures as well on the known additives and known products that could be found in the polymers. And finally, you might have some information from historical point of view and have found any characterization. So then you have to, once you have gathered all information possible, both from the composition, the processing steps, and the use of the products, you have to prepare. So you can evaluate the risk of release of substance from your product using sample extraction, choosing the right technique of analysis according to your previous finding, and to make sure that the technique of analysis you use have the level of quantification sufficient to be able to identify and to detect the product you are looking for examples. And this is in as well in accordance with the regulation and the acceptable levels that is giving you in the regulation. So finally, the main steps to go through is to perform the collection of all the information you need from your product and your packaging. Perform a risk assessment of every component that is used in your packaging. You can complete it with migration specific and global migration of on the packaging to quantify the quantity of substances that could be released and leached from the packaging, and both with a regulatory evaluation and toxicological evaluation. You can compare the released product with the non-acceptable level, and that allows you to evaluate if your product is having an acceptable safe use to be put on the market and to be certified according to the different regulation. So I keep having issue with the slide. I'm sorry about that. Go through to the two other articles. So first of all, the recyclability evaluation. So here you have like a case study provided by Recyclas, which is an organism that is labeled to certify the recycled content of the product. So for example, this is cleaning product. So you can consider, so what is the nature of the containers itself? Is it like virgin materials? Is it colored materials? What kind of adhesive is used for the label? So is it labels that could be easily peeled off from the recycled contents? So what is the nature of the materials used for the labels? What is the amount of the label compared to the overall containment system? We have to consider as well the closure system. So what kind of closure it is? Is it something scribbles, clippable? Is it easy to remove in the recycled process and in the recycled field as well? So there are several multi-layer system, or is it single layers that easy more easy to recycle? So this is to ask, considering if your product can be recyclable or not, and how you can improve the recyclability to be in line with the expected regulations. So I just put again all the regulations. So this will be the expected requirements from the PPWR with 3 grades. Grade A, this is more than 95% recyclable materials. Grade 8, it's 80%, and grade C, it's 70%. So you can see that all over the years, there will be a restriction of which kind of materials, and in 2030s, all materials has to be recyclable, over 70% of use, and by 2038, only materials that are recyclable up to more than 80% will be allowed to be put on the market. So to evaluate the recyclability, you have to evaluate the kind of collections of your materials. Is there a specific stream that is existing? What is the recycled steps? Is it a large-scale recycled process? Is it a recognized recycled process? Because for food contact industry, we'd have to go through a specific authorization from the EFSA authorities to recognize and accept the recycling process as a safe, traceable, and with no contamination of the process during the use of the product. And my last slide is about the incorporation of the recycled content. Here there will be as well like a new regulation that require the incorporation of recycled content. So we have seen that we have to certify them systematically. So first of all, examine the decontamination. Is it easy and efficient decontamination of the product? What is the impact of the incorporation of the recycle in the process? I mean, we have to evaluate by innovation studies 0%, 25, 50%, and 100% incorporation of recycled plastic, and see what is the impact on safety, but as well on performance, and again, and finally on the final product manufacturing, for example, by injection or extrusion. We will have to evaluate what is the impact on the different process and the incorporation of the recycled product on the performance. I mean, the processability, the mechanical properties, the colors, the impact of the performance, and this performance have to be evaluated according to specific standards. And I will give the word to Alejandro, which will detail all the performance and all the characterization that can be done on the recycled plastic.
Okay. Thank you, Marilis. So, as Marilis said, I will be introducing the material characterization needed to get the certification for recycled plastic, because of course we need to move towards more eco-friendly materials, but also these materials need to perform equally as the virgin materials. Okay, so for now, the regulation focuses on the 5 materials that are more widely used in the world, which are polyethylene, polypropylene, polystyrene, polyvinyl chloride, and polyethylene terephthalate. These 5 materials are used in a wide variety of applications, such as packaging that we talk about during this webinar, also for piping, also in the automotive industry, among others. So unfortunately, some of these applications involves that the time that the material or the product is used is very short compared to the time that they can be recycled or that they are disposed. So that's why we have to focus on developing new materials to extend the lifetime of these products. So in the regulation, there is a part that Jose talked about, that there are some tests that need to be done in order to get the certification for the recycled plastic. This standard states the tests that are mandatory to perform for each material. So for polyethylene there is a standard, for polypropylene there is another one, and they state the tests that are mandatory, but for instance, there are some tests that these standards do not say that it's mandatory. But for instance, the tensile testing is a typical test that appears in all material data sheets, but it's not included as a mandatory test for all materials in this case. So also is something that Jose mentioned before. These tests need to be done as an internal quality control in the production of the material, but also samples of these materials need to be sent to an external accredited lab to perform the testing according to the standard and to verify these internal results. I will not enter into much detail regarding each test that it needs to be for each material, but I would like to point out some general aspects that these standards have. So, as I said before, not all the tests are included in the all the possible tests that you will need for your material are included in these standards. And there is also some standards differentiate regarding the grade or the shape that the material is presented or described. For instance, for the polystyrene, as you can see here, if it's declared as a high impact polystyrene, the impact test will not be needed to be performed, as let's say it's already understand that the material is a high impact polystyrene, so it will meet the requirement. So in the next slide are shown the test for PVC and PET. In here, as you can see, there is also a differentiation for PVC between plasticized and unplasticized, and also for micronized and non-micronized. The test required for depending on the grade of PVC are different. Taking the example of tensile test, as said before, you can see here that only for plasticized PVC that it's not micronized will be mandatory to perform this test. In the case of PET, there is only the differentiation regarding the shape of the PET, if it's in pellets or if it's in flakes, and there are some tests that will be mandatory depending on the shape of the PET. So summarizing, if you need your material to be certified for recycled plastic, you will need to perform as an internal quality control the tests that are stated in each material, in each standard, sorry, for each material. But the standards do not specify any specific criteria that the material should comply with, for example, for the melt flow index. So these criteria are extracted for a product standard. For instance, if you are using polyethylene for piping, you will have to meet the requirements for the product standard for this application, or the internal criteria that each manufacturer have is the one that will apply. Okay. So then I will show sorry, it's appears, okay. So I will show a slide in which you can see the testing process that we can perform here at Applus. Since you will need to not only to do the internal quality control, but also to send samples to an accredited external lab. Here is where Applus can help you with. Here is the process that we will focus, that will last more or less 4 weeks since the receipt of the samples. I would like to point out that we can perform the specimen preparation. This is an area where our colleagues from France, in this case Marilis, can help us. We can perform this specimen preparation, which is more or less the bottleneck of the process, since it will last around 10 days. So with this slide, we finish the webinar, and now we will jump into the Q&A section. So feel free to ask any question on the chat. Okay, so here we have one question from Kathy. He's asking, we are producing food contact plastic articles. Is our lab able to accredited to test level of bisphenols according to 2024 3090? And if we are able to identify quantity and toxicologically assess NIAS regarding the high degree of purity, and as described in the article 3A of 2025/351.
I will answer these 2 questions. So to answer your question, we have developed the method to evaluate the amount of bisphenol, and we have validated technique for that. We are not accredited for this test according to the regulation 2024/3190, but we can perform the test. And the second questions, yeah, we can evaluate going to the identification quantifications of NIAS, using several methods. As I say, we are performing global migration, and then we can do evaluation of the presence of NIAS according to several conditions, so either by worst case using extractions or migration evaluation, depending of the concern you have on the priorities. And we can evaluate semi-volatiles, volatiles, and non-volatile priorities, as well as metallic contents. that could be present in the food contact materials, and this is the one described in the Article A 2025-351 with a special focus on phthalate, endocrine disruptors, PFAS, and metallic contents of such as cadmium, mercury, lead, for example.
Okay, thank you, Marilis. We have another question from Rosamund, who is, what comment do you have on the substance of concern and how often this list will change?
This is a difficult question because it's more in relation with REACH regulations. So I know that there are many questions on the REACH regulation and how often this will change. We can expect it's going to be changing often in the next few years, but in parallel, REACH and European regulation are willing to go through a simplification of the evaluation of concerning substances. I attended like a meeting last week, and there are like a few interrogation on these simplifications and the concern of non-reachable, level of quantification relating to REACH. So I will say there is a lot of blurry in what we can expect.
Okay, so we have a last question, who is, how will be the procedure to be certified if you are a trader?
Okay, so let me ask this one. Answer. In this case, a trader will be most likely like a manufacturer, so it will be under PCS 135. And the most important part for this is that the suppliers of the trader are already accredited under EN 15343. Okay, in this case, the requirements will be the same, but if they do not have manufacturing activities, this will be out of the scope, and we only assess the information from the suppliers and the buyers. Okay.
Okay, so I think we are running out of time. I see, Lauren, that you have a question. I don't know if we have time. I think this is for Marilis. Is as you presented that pharmaceutical products are exempt from regulation 2025/40. Do you know if this includes all packaging used for medical device and pharmaceutical product?
From now, there is an exemption for medical device and pharmaceutical products, but a warning has to be made. It does not concern nutraceutical product in pharma application. Nutraceutical does not have the exemption, and the exemption is not complete. I think some part of the regulation has to be complied by the pharmaceutical and medical device application. Some parts, at least.
Okay, so now, yes, we are running out of time. So I see, Kathy, that you have another question. So I think you already have our contact, email address, and so on. Otherwise, it will arrive to you via email as well as these slides. So you can contact us via email, and we can, of course, clarify all the questions that you may have. So thank you very much for attending the webinar, and we keep in touch.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.